webinar series of EGROW Foundation. As you know, we have done more than 250 webinars so far. We started just around COVID, keeping in mind that we will get the best minds from across the world to come and speak to us on global issues, contemporary economic issues, some even pertaining to India and some from the rest of the world. And then we were very fortunate that we have continued this Friday webinar series. I would also like to share, we've been very fortunate in terms of India's G20 presidency. We did a series for the new international economic order, and then we did a half a series, about 6 webinars on women empowerment and on climate change. Other than these, we have been focused on mainly contemporary economic issues, socio-economic issues like poverty and unemployment, even geopolitical concerns. So regularly, in a very cyclical pattern, we take all of these issues that come up week after week. Today, again, we have a very special session. We are going to be discussing various issues. One of the most important speakers whom I had heard recently was Professor Sanika Ramanayake, and I requested her specially to come and speak on this issue with us today. Luckily, she agreed. Sanika Ramanayake is working as a senior lecturer at the Department of Social Statistics in the University of California. Before this appointment, she was a senior researcher at Hector Kobe Kaduva Agrarian Research Institute, a visiting lecturer at General Sir John Kotila Vela Defense University, University of Colombo, and University of Vocational Technologies in Sri Lanka. She is currently the Deputy Director of the Center for Gender Studies at the University of California, Sri Lanka. She is the Chief Editor of the Journal of Social Statistics, which is an international journal for academic staff members. And she is co-editor of the Journal of Gender Studies, Sri Lanka, and another international journal. Earlier, she had done her postdoctoral studies at the International Development Research Center, Canada, affiliated with the Indira Gandhi Institute of Development Research, Mumbai, and a postdoctoral research at Seoul National University and Inha University under the Social Science Korea program. Her research interests are sustained growth and economic development, international trade and export growth, SMA, middle income trap, currency exchange rate, women empowerment, and gender gap. She has worked on various countries and done area studies on East Asia, South Asia, Southeast Asia, Latin America, and Africa. So she has been working on regional issues. Today, she is going to be speaking to us on knowledge-driven development through national innovation systems. And I can vouch for it. I have heard her presentation earlier. Very, very very interesting, very informative. You will really benefit from it. With this, let me go over, and Sanika, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Professor Charan Singh. Thank you very much for your kind invitation to address your EGROW new think tank webinar. I'm very honored and glad to talk my research in this webinar series. Okay, so I am Sanika from University of California, Faculty of Social Sciences, Department of Social Statistics, University of California, Sri Lanka. So today I'm going to talk about knowledge-driven development through national innovation system. So I will do the comparative analysis of global south versus global north. So what is the motivation for my research is you know, the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, they emphasize the importance of science and technology, innovation and knowledge, which is very lacking South countries. At the same time, there are some existing literature emphasize that innovation and knowledge, especially the foreign technological knowledge based on science and technology, are critical economic growth and development factors. At the same time, most of the North countries obtain economic transformation through knowledge-based innovation. The best example is earlier Japan, but recently South Korea, Taiwan, and Singapore. So those countries achieve rapid industrial development and economic growth through the national innovation system. So these motivate for our research. Therefore, the main objectives in my research is to investigate the national innovation system, interrelated dimension of selected East Asian countries, particularly South Korea, Taiwan, and Singapore, and comparing them with Sri Lankan case. And there are some specific sub-objectives to investigate the role of national innovation system in sustained growth in North and South countries. At the same time, we have conducted this research to see how national innovation systems and its interrelated dimensions work in global South and global North. Furthermore, to develop policy suggestions for strengthening the national innovation system of Sri Lanka and South countries are the main objectives in my research. Therefore, our research questions we have built up. Why it is essential to have better national innovation system for developing countries, including Sri Lanka, and what is the role of national innovation system in sustaining growth for developing countries. Furthermore, another research questions we have conducted. What are the development indicators of national innovation system? So we are going to find out the indicators of national innovation system. And we also seek that how national innovation system works in global South and global North. I'm very sorry because of the heavy rain started, you might get some noise from my side. So there are some existing literature. They have already emphasized the importance of national innovation system. So you can see Lundvall, Malaraba, Lee, Joseph, and Singh, and many others. They have explained that importance of technological development on growth through the national innovation system. Moreover, Carvalho and Nuns, 2015, they have indicated that most significant measures for innovation performance in a country are the number of patent applications, research and development expenditure on GDP, and high-tech exports. So when we think about, or when we concern about the concept of national innovation system, Friedman in 1987 have explained that the network of institutions in the public and private sectors whose activities and interaction initiate, import, modify, and diffuse new technologies. And Lundvall's definition for national innovation system is the elements and relationship which interact in the production, diffusion, and use of new economically useful knowledge and are either located within or rooted inside the borders of the nation state. Not only that, actually, I have here displayed a very limited literature related to the national innovation system, and there are plenty of other literature have showed and explained the definition of national innovation system. So, in this study, we investigate the impact of innovation, science and technology and knowledge, especially the R&D, research and development driven factors on economic growth in the global south and the global north. So there we have identified factors from the literature that support the national innovation system of a country. So these are the factors we have identified from the existing literature which are supported for the national innovation system of a country. So one is patent application, another one is research and development expenditure, and high-tech exports and the foreign direct investment. So we have gone through these four indicators in week and week 3, and we have related those factors to our research and show how these factors are important for national growth and also the national innovation system. So we have identified the problem in South countries. What is the many South countries fail to reach knowledge-based development due to lack of science and technological knowledge, including Sri Lanka, and also their lack of innovation, and they don't have better national innovation system. I mean the proper national innovation system. Instead of technological innovation-based industries, most of the South countries still have the labor-intensive industries. At the same time, those South countries, they are afraid of risk-taking, and we cannot see a lot of new industrial shifting among the developing countries. So, Professor Kun Lee from South Korea and Professor Franco Malaramba from Italy, they have explained these kind of catching up strategies. I think you all well aware of these catching up strategies. One is stage skipping, leaf bogging, path creating catching up strategies. But for these strategies, countries need to take some risk. So taking a risk and either stage skipping or leaf bogging or the path creating is essential for countries' development and growth. One best example is South Korea, which I spent more than 9 years in South Korea during my master's and PhD studies, as well as I work as a postdoctoral researcher in South Korea. During my experience and my knowledge, I would like to give you one example, which is risk-taking from South Korean case. So now, South Korea is the global leader of DRAM industry or the semiconductor industry. You all well aware about this. For example, in 1965, the first foreign investment in South Korean semiconductor industry was made by the United States. The firm name is Fomi, and they started to produce the 64K DRAM in 1983. What they have done, they have stage skipped and jumped into the 16 megabyte DRAM in 1991. They have skipped some stages. So that is risk-taking. Of course, they don't know the market. It is a new production. It's a risk. But the South Korea, they took that risk and they jumped into that new stage. After that, what they have done, in 2000, not only that, in 1992, they have jumped into the 64 megabyte DRAM semiconductor. So in Japan and other developed countries, they are still producing the low capacity DRAM. But the South Korea, they took the risk and jumped into the bigger size of semiconductor. So the whole market, South Korean semiconductor industry could grab the whole market in the world. So today, in 2013, South Korea commercialized the world's first 3D NAND flash memory chip as well. So today is the world's largest producer and the exporter of the memory chips. And the Samsung, you all know the Samsung Electronics and the SK Hynix controlling almost 70% of the global semiconductor market. So I wanted to show that they have the knowledge. They went to the new innovation because you can see they are jump into the new innovation with the risk taking and some stage skipping. So in 2024, with the Korean government support, the DRAM market is dominated by the South Korea. So this is one good example for risk taking. But most of the developing countries are unable to get this risk, and also they are fear of this risk. At the same time, they don't have the knowledge to get this risk. Therefore, developing countries need more technology, innovations, and knowledge, especially in high-tech industries, and better national innovation system, interrelated dimensions, such as patent applications, R&D, high-tech exports, and new innovations to sustain growth. So these are the main foundation for our research. So I will explain the methodology in my research. It includes two parts. Part one, we have done the comparative analysis, which is the national innovation system of three selected East Asian countries, South Korea, Taiwan, and Singapore. And we compare those national innovation system interrelated dimensions with the East Asian tigers. What are the dimensions we use? That patent applications, R&D expenditure, high-tech exports among these countries. So at the same time, we compare them with some South Asian countries, particularly with Sri Lanka. The second part, what we have done, we use these indicators and we did some time series panel regression to empirically analysis and show how these interrelated dimensions are impact for economic growth and development. So the methodology is mostly quantitative, and the data we use from the secondary sources. Data period we use from 2000 to 2021, time series panel data. Techniques we use a tool ordinary least square and panel fixed effect and random effect estimation with the Houseman test. And we have two samples. One is 20 countries, including 20 North countries versus 20 South countries, which means developing countries. So these are some figures. These are some figures. We can see that national innovation system related dimension. One is research and development in East Asian countries. So here we can see that China is catching up, you can see. And the Korea is the number one in East Asia, which is spending for research and development. So you can see they spend more on R&D. At the same time, they produce more innovative products for the market. Example, semiconductors, LED, and now they are into the pharmaceutical industries. At the same time, Taiwan also there. So you can see Singapore, but it's kind of stable. Yeah, Taiwan is another catching up cases from East Asian storm. But when we compare this with South Asian countries, including China, we all know China is catching up because they are also highly spending on R&D expenditure. So we can see their line is skyrocketing. And you can see India. In recently, India is also some kind of course, these South Asian countries still spending on research and development less than 1% from the GDP. So India also some kind of stable, Pakistan have also some problem, and Sri Lanka. A very limited amount on research and development. So if we don't spending on research and development, we cannot do new innovative products. There are no new invention, no high-tech exports. So this is very important indicator for sustained growth. When we see the high-tech exports, so these are the data in 2020. So you can see China is the top one in high-tech export, and the Hong Kong, Germany, Korea, and Singapore. So these East Asian countries almost in the top level. Okay, so China was the world top exporter of high technology goods for many years. And the Korea remained fourth place and the Singapore remains fifth place. Even United States in sixth place. So when we talking about the patent and the trademarks, although the East Asia and Pacific remain the top, and the Europe and also the North America, but South Asia and other countries, they don't have the patent application and the new trademarks. Let's see how these countries, especially Sri Lanka, Taiwan, Korea, and Singapore, spending on R&D. So compared to these countries, look at Sri Lanka. Even we cannot compare them with these East Asian countries. In terms of patent application, you can see the China is the top in the world. Even China is bigger than the United States patent application, which is IP office received 1.5 million patent applications in 2021 from China. And then the US, and then Korea, Japan and Korea and Europe. So these are the top countries in terms of the patent application. But when we see that like Sri Lanka, the very low amount of patent, because low amount patent number means almost no innovation. When we see about the high technology exports, so you can see that Hong Kong remains top, and then the Singapore, Korea, China then, and Sri Lanka almost a very, very low level of high-tech exports. So let's turn into the empirical analysis of our research. So this is the model that we use for the panel estimation. We use gross domestic product, GDP, as a dependent variable, and we included these dimension, the patent application, R&D expenditure, high-tech export, and foreign direct investment as the explanatory variable. These are the sample countries. We have 20 developed countries, and also we have 20 developing countries. We use the country classification from the World Economic Situation and Prospects in 2022. In that list, South Korea and Singapore are still belong to the South countries. So therefore, because of their having a lot of innovations and R&D and high-tech exports, we excluded Singapore and South Korea from our first model. So this model is without South Korea and Singapore, but we have included the China, because China in terms of other specification, they are very low, only their high-tech exports are high. So I will come up with the results. This is the descriptive statistics for developed countries and the developing countries. I will move into the results. So this is the empirical result. We have done robustness estimation which means three empirical analyses have done for the same data set. So this is for the developing countries and this part is for the developed countries. So we can compare the difference between these two sets. First, let's see that developing countries. So you can see here, the patent application is have positive impact on GDP, but R&D expenditure and the high-tech exports are not significant. Of course, the foreign direct investment have negative, but significant impact on the GDP. But when we see the North countries or the developed countries, you can see research and development and the high-tech exports are also significant on the GDP. So this is very interesting, and the all results are robust in these three estimations. At the same time, we have included that South Korea and Singapore into the developing countries model. So in that case, we have 22 developing countries. So when we include Korea and Singapore, you can see the model, our results change. So you can see high-tech exports got significant in this model. But in the previous model, without South Korea and Singapore, high-tech exports are not significant. So I will come up with the conclusion, which is South countries, their lack of technology and technological innovation. Therefore, low-tech exports are negatively correlated for the GDP in the model. When we compare the Sri Lanka with these countries, Sri Lanka, the number of patent applications, trademarks, industrial designs, high-tech exports, and R&D expenditures on GDP are remarkably low. So when it comes to our panel estimation, it is clear that national innovation system interrelated dimensions such as patent application, R&D expenditure, high-tech export, and FDI positively impact on GDP for developed countries, but not in the developing countries. So let me come up with the policy suggestions for the South countries, because these all policies which we derive for the South countries. One is the government should prioritize science and technology in their path towards economic development, and they need to increase the country's technological development part. So as you could see from the South Korean case, even 2024, more than, I forgot exactly the billion, they have spent plenty of amount for the semiconductor industry and its investment. So that is from the government, and they have provided a lot of tax relief for those investors. So the government support should be very important for the developing countries. At the same time, increasing research and development expenditure is very essential. So majority or most of the developing countries, including Sri Lanka, they are spending on R&D a very low amount, even it's less than 1%. At the same time, promoting university industry R&D cooperation is very important. But we can see like a lot of East Asian countries, they have university industry linkages with the private and public partners. But this is not in Sri Lanka and many other developing countries. Next, promoting joint research and development with foreign institutions and local institutions, and providing benefit to joint ventures, because at the beginning, South Korea and Taiwan, they started with the joint venture. So the joint venture is very essential, because through the joint venture, only we can get the foreign knowledge. So without joint venture, we can't get the foreign technology and knowledge. So the joint venture is very important. Therefore, the government should promote the joint ventures for developing countries. Next, national innovation system-based structural change is needed from labor-intensive to technological knowledge-based industry with new innovations and new product innovation systems. As I mentioned, many developing countries, including Sri Lanka, still we are depend on labor-intensive countries. So in 1980s, we produced textile. So that was Sri Lankan main export gaining industry. Even today in 2024, export is the main export industry, but that is labor intensive. We can't compete. Sri Lankan textile and garment cannot compete with the cheap quality products from Bangladesh, Myanmar, and China. So we are failed in the market. So we have to take a new step forward to new industrial countries, new industrialized products with high technology experience. And need to increase general science and technology literacy among every level of students to build up a critical mass of scientists, researchers, and people with innovative and critical thinking. So these are some policies which we want to emphasize through our research. And next, let's move into the practical part of the developing countries. The most of developing countries, they have everything, but they don't have the political stability. A good example is Sri Lanka. So good governance and politics also matter for the country's economic development with this high-tech and everything. Without a stable government, without a stable political leader for a country, it is very hard to achieve those innovations and new technology or more spending on research and development. Therefore, I will show you some example. In Sri Lanka, hope you all remember from the news 2022, the young majority Sri Lankans started Aragalaya. It is the protest against the corrupted good governance and the president. At that time, they have kicked out the Gotabaya Rajapaksa and he have moved the political power into Ranil Wickremesinghe. He also in the parliament more than 60 years, but he's a very failed leader. People did not like him at all. So until this September, he was the president for 2 years. What he has done, he has increased the high tax, which is income tax. 36% of the university academics, doctors, engineers, and all the bankers and all the private sector, they have to pay this 36% of high tax. So what happened in Sri Lanka? Brain drain. Even because I am in academia, so more than 6,000 university staff, academic staff members left the country during this 2 years period. So this is only the university staff. But if we, I don't have the statistics about the doctors and engineers and the bankers. There are more than 30,000 highly intelligent intellects left the country during these 2 years, which means 2022, 23, and the early period of 2024. So the political leadership with good governance is very important for country, even though we are talking about innovation and high-tech exports and everything. And another case, see the Bangladesh. So Bangladesh also started the youth protest, especially from the university students. And what happened? The similar case with Sri Lanka, they have kicked out the political leader. And they have elected a new president after a lot of serious crisis with a lot of deaths. So the government changed. And the Pakistan case. So these terrorist attacks in Pakistan destroy the country image and the growth of the country. So the leadership is always problem for a country. And the country's instability, it's very difficult to sustain as a country. So these are few examples. Recently, I heard another country, they also kicked out the president, but I forgot actually that country. I think South Sudan or some other African country. So another revolutionary changes happened in Sri Lanka in September 21st in 2024, this year. So after all the family domain, family based, because this is his father was the former president and his father was the former president and he is the Ranil Wickremesinghe, the previous president. He was in the parliament for more than 70 years, but nothing has done for the country. So all the people rejected those leaders and elected for this socialistic republic young middle class president as their presidential election. So that's a kind of new paradigm change in Sri Lankan political history. So after 76 years, the middle class man becomes a Sri Lankan president. And he will be another significant case that will follow the future by the other countries. As that our young protest followed by another country, I think this political pattern will also followed by the many developing countries. So he's actually educated president, young, and he has the science degree. He's former alumni from our same with my university, University of California. He has the physics degree. So actually, many young generation or the many educated people started to watch him because of his new strategical and the planning for country. And another one is we are talking about the education knowledge. So this is another good example from Sri Lanka, which is that education and knowledge are getting bigger price in the world, including Sri Lanka. So this is the Prime Minister, newly elected Prime Minister, Havini Amarasuriya. Actually, her bachelor is from the University of Delhi, which is from your country, and the master's from Macquarie University of Australia, and the PhD is from University of Edinburgh. People from Sri Lanka, they are started to liking those educated and matured new political leaders, not from the family authorized people from the political families. So yesterday was the election, and today we have the very happy news. 15th November 2024, National People's Power, NPP party won parliamentary majority, 158 parliamentary seats out of 225. So their main election theme was more than 6% for education. So that's why most of the educated people, especially the university lecturers, doctors and engineers and other fields of education, they have elected for this new political party after 76 years. So this is actually a new paradigm shift. So this is the voting yesterday, today result and the presidential election. You can see this rate is from the NPP party. In September election, they cannot get the power from the north and the east area. But today's election, they have dominated whole Sri Lanka except for this one particular east region. So that's kind of huge change within 2 months. So this is the end of my talk, which I want to emphasize that innovations, technology and education will change the future of the South countries faster than before. Sri Lanka is a good example for that. So now we have internet, smartphones, Wi-Fi, social media and other stuff. So it is very difficult to spread the fake identification or the fake images or lies among the society, because they are well aware of everything. They are well aware of information. This is not only Sri Lanka, this is related to India and other developing countries. So, change the world or the leadership faster. This is the new paradigm shift in the developing world. Thank you.
Sanika, I must thank you. This is fabulous, fabulous. But let me open it to the question answer session. If anybody wants to ask a question, you can put it in the chat box, or you could raise your hand and I can request you to then ask your question. In the meantime, Sanika, I myself was thinking the point that you made is so pertinent that there has to be increase in the technology fund and there has to be increase in R&D expenditure, and then the joint venture with foreign universities, I think, is a very good suggestion and a structural change that is required. I also like the way you brought in the story of the good governance and political stability. I think those are also very important issues that you have brought in. And only then one can think that this um, innovation can lead to higher. Now, the issue that, because you've done your research, the issue that comes up repeatedly is in many of these countries, especially emerging countries like India, and of course, many least developed economies, the challenge is where to get the resources for innovation and for R&D. Now, as you would know, that when you incur expenditure on R&D, it's not necessarily targeted, laser beamed into developing something, but sometimes there can be an opportunity for blue sky research. So the blue sky research would mean that the research scholar, he would like to use his time and knowledge and skills for may not be a targeted approach that you want, because the ecosystem that encourages innovative thinking and research cannot then curtail or curb the scientist to only think into a narrow way in which you need research. Obviously, the other related question is the platform. You need a platform of innovation. Some innovation may find its utility immediately. Some innovation may have to wait for a decade or two before it finds its utility. So therefore, how do governments really afford to sink money in this? Any thoughts on that?
Yes, Professor. I think I will address your second question first. How do government afford money for this kind of utility for the new innovation? I think I will come up with with South Korean example. From South Korea, they have in late 1970s and 80s, they have into this new semiconductor and memory chip industry. But today, even though the semiconductor industry dominated, but other sectors, they have some problem. So what South Korea and the government and also the public-private partnership, what they have done, they have begun the new structural paradigm, which is in early 2000, they shift their high-tech industries into the pharmaceuticals industry. So in 2000, they have invested more on those pharmaceutical industries. So today, South Korean pharmaceutical sectors, after 15 or 20 years later, now they are getting, increase than this technological production. So again, this is also based on the research and development and new innovation, but the correct decisions at the correct time. Because they have stable economic leadership, especially South Korea. Of course, every 5 years, sometimes it change, but the politically, the country is stable. So the decisions they can take for long run. But in developing countries, all the governmental decisions, they are short. So when the government change every 5 years, all the decisions are changed with the every production cycle and the technological cycle, the knowledge cycle, everything, ups and down.
True, that's very true. But then I was thinking also in terms of lots of technological and R&D investment into climate, into weather forecasting, meteorology, as well as space research. Now, most of the countries which have engaged in R&D in these have maintained the tempo despite the change in the political regimes. But then the issue is that most of the countries which have worked on meteorological issues, climate, and R&D into space are the rich countries. Of course, India has been doing extraordinarily well into space research and achieving absolutely fabulous, fantastic results at 1/10 of the cost of what advanced countries are able to achieve. So the cost factor has played a very important role in countries like India. But then defense R&D, and of course, as you would know, many things that have been initially done for defense then find way into civilian research and civilian application. So then the thought is that yes, it is true that R&D needs to be encouraged, but then what are the sectors? I think the example that you gave for Korea, pharmaceutical, is a very good example. Yeah, I think that's a great thought that if one can look into new areas rather than the traditional R&D in space and defense, maybe innovation and growth can take place. Sure. Any observations that you would like to make? And yeah, any questions if audience has? I can see in the chat box. Yes, there are some observations. Sanika, are you comfortable? There are two questions in the chat box.
Yes, Professor. One is an example. They are mentioning that Tamil Nadu,
Yeah,
where the administration change every time.
right. And I'm sure you're familiar with the Tamil Nadu government, but I thought Tamil Nadu in the thought leadership in science and technology, they're doing quite well. But the other one, India being a developing nation, how far the skill development approach can reach the expected innovation development is political stability an important factor. Well, in India, we have had space research program going on, irrespective of the party in power. And so has been the case in America also. Means the Democrats or Republicans, you find space research is always there. So far, even in Russia, means the space research program during the Soviet Union days and today, they are continuing to lead. So I leave it to you, Sanika, if you want to make an observation on question one.
Yes, actually, in terms of the question one, yes, of course, India is doing so well. The political stability, I think the Modi's government, this is the third consecutive years, right? So actually, India is doing so well. So every other country is afraid of India, especially the China and the America. So that's why they are, I think, on one hand, this global, political regime support for Pakistan to build up some, I don't know, the destroy the India's, development and the growth. So, I mean, another example is South Korea and the North Korean war. So when South Korea and North Korea is a one nation, I think their political power is higher than when it is separated. So sometimes those, the rich countries, they support to separate those countries. So even the Ukraine and Russian problem and the Israel and Iran problem. So this world politics is something else that we cannot address.
True. All right. I think with that, we have no more questions in our chat box. And I think you have given us a very detailed explanation. Well, here's a question which somebody was asking about. Let me just read it to you. And this is from Rajkumar. How does the political governance impact the economic growth? Would you have a view on that?
Of course, actually, there are plenty of research has, argued the impact of political governance to the economic growth, because in terms of various ways, it has an impact on economic growth. I will tell one thing. One is the political decision making is highly affected for the economic growth, especially the import-export tax decisions impacted highly affect for the economic growth, because the political governments, they have controlled those tariff policies, and also the country's political governance with neighboring countries also matter for economic growth. So there are actually a lot of impact with political governance on economic growth, directly and indirect aspects.
Right. True. And this another one, what specific model would you suggest to measure the impact?
The specific impact, specific model, actually right now, I cannot tell, because this is something a bit, out of my topic. Yeah, but I think there are, research has done for sure, I know, with this political governance and the economic growth. I don't know actually the specific models. Yeah, right now, actually, I cannot suggest any specific model
That's
for
fine.
that. I'm
That's
sorry.
That's fine. That's fine. So I think we have had a very good discussion, and I think in a very simplified way, you have brought in the details and shown the correlation and the correlation between growth and innovation. I think that's very, very important. I would like to mention that this will be available on our website by tomorrow, and I'm sure many of you will be able to use it. I have some important announcements to make. One of it is, in our country, we have the Prime Minister's Economic Advisory Council. It was chaired by a polymath, a scholar, an economist, and a philosopher, Dr. Bibek Debroy. He suddenly passed away at the age of 69 last week. On 18th of November, which is a Monday, we are observing a memorial service for him, 3 to 4:30. A scholar, a philosopher. So I would invite you, if you have time, to please spend time with us and know about this economist who delved into scholarly, ancient religious literature and brought out English translations from hardcore Sanskrit work. So on Monday, 3 to 4:30, we are doing a memorial service to Vivek Debroy, Chairman of the Prime Minister's Economic Advisory Council. On Friday, November 22, we are going to have in person scholar from the International Monetary Fund in Washington, Rahul Giri, senior economist, fly into Delhi after the talk, fly out and speak to us on structural reforms in Asia. Now we will attempt to do a hybrid model. So there are people in Delhi or surrounding areas are welcome and others can join us online. So with that, I want to thank Sanika for having agreed to do a detailed presentation. And as you have noticed, it was fabulous. We have all benefited from her discussion. And being from Sri Lanka herself, she has shared with us the political compulsions that can negatively impact growth, innovation, and R&D. Something very difficult to learn otherwise only from books and newspapers. So Sanika, I want to thank you not only for the topic for which we specially invited you, but also share with us the ground level realities that happen in an emerging country. So thank you very much for being with us. In the next 2 or 3 months, we are attempting to do a bilateral conference between India and Sri Lanka, EGROW Foundation, and obviously we are going to request you to be part of that endeavor that we will make in Delhi. So with that, I also want to thank not only Professor Sanika, also the participants for making the discussion so rich and informative. So with this, let me thank you all and have a great weekend and look forward to your participation on a sad occasion, a memorial service on Monday, and then of course on November 22, structural reforms in Asia from IMF. Thank you very much. Thank you, Sanika. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Professor, and having me and inviting me and all the good comments and for your great invitation. I highly appreciate. And thank you very much, all of you, to joining for my session.